Alright, just another minute or two and then we'll get going live here. While I wait for my cat to move off my lap. Alright, George. I have the fan running again because the weather is starting to get hot once more. Alright, so first things first. Hello and welcome to another live stream of 8-Bit Monsters exposing D&D 5e Monster CRs live. Sometimes I don't say the live part because, you know, it's been pre-recorded and I'm changing it for the podcast. So, trying to make it a little more interesting. In any sense, if you've been watching these live streams or watching the replays, you'll notice that the setup is a little different. I've tried to increase the viewing area for my desktop, which I forgot to turn on my highlighter. There we go. I've increased the viewing area because there was some complaints and I knew there was a bit of a problem with that. People couldn't read what was on the screen. Hopefully now we can. This is just a test and I will modify my layout a little more if need be. Beyond that, I've also updated my my monster exposing tool here, whatever you want to call it, the CR calculations tool. And what I've done is I've dropped the table down and brought everything up. And I've also made a new combat workspace off on the right side here, which is pretty handy. And what's really great is that once I start adding in numbers to the round area, it will add it into the full attack. And then from there, I can just easily copy over to the DPR section. So for instance, if I find that, you know, attack 1 is going to be 15 damage and attack 3 or 2 is going to be 38 damage, and then I can also put in legendary actions and layer actions if need be. And then let's say the multi-attack is going to be, you know, attack 2 plus attack 1. So great, we have our multi-attack of 53. And then rounds of combat could be, all right, well, maybe it can do some weird reason the multi-attack once plus, you know, attack number 1. And then the round 2 could be just the multi-attack. And round 3 could also be the multi-attack. So now we have a full attack of 58 damage based off of rounds 1, 2, and 3. And then we can come over here and just set that to the damage per round, seeing our whole section here jump down for the OCR information. So that's been pretty helpful. I started using that last week as I was going over the videos for this week, which you probably have already been watching. Hopefully you have. If not, they're on the shorts, you know, just quick 40 seconds or less. They generally don't go over about 45 seconds now, so they're anywhere between 35 to 45 seconds, which is great. And, you know, it saves me a whole bunch of time. And what's also nice, too, is when I hit the reset button, it clears out the whole combat workspace section, and it also resets the full attack. So if I ever lose this, because it's the whole round down section, and, excuse me, my cat was messing with my laptop on the side here. If I ever lose this round down information for the rounds 1 through 3, my reset button will put all that information back in place for me. So that's what's going on here. Oh, I also forgot, because shield is often used so much, I actually added it into the chart now. So now we have shield as an option to add in for our monster getting the +5 effective AC, you know, every round of combat, because being a, what was it, level 1 spell, we can use that multiple times, which is really great. So that's pretty much it for updates so far for my calculations tool here. Added in the shield spell, moved some stuff up, And I also added in the combat workspace, which has been super helpful now that I have a dedicated spot for it. And with that, let's jump into deconstructing a monster. Or exposing its CR, I should say. Deconstruction was my old catchphrase. And I have a couple requests. I'm going to save the Mind Flayer Arcanist for later. If the fellow or the person that requested it from last week shows up, I'll save it for when they show up. I'd like to do that with them live. And the Arcanoloth we already did last week. We looked at the fox creature. So we're going to skip over that one, since that one has already been taken care of. And I've had a request for just your straight up Lich, which I also think Acerak is probably a Lich as well. But anyways, let's pull up the Lich and see what we get for that until we get some requests for some other monsters later on. Also, I've had Strahd von Zarevich. Yeah, Strahd requested a couple times, and actually someone wanted to see the documentation that I use as well, which was pretty fascinating. So if you happen to catch that shorts video, make sure you check the description, because I'll have the Google Docs, and I'll have a Google Docs sheet set up just to show what my notes look like and all of the information for all of its attacks. And we'll go from there. So this is my current week's lineup, so you can see what's going on. So if you're watching the live stream, you're getting a sneak peek at what's coming out during each of these days this week. And then this is just what's here. These will be randomly assorted to, or randomly assigned to the next week. So this isn't the actual order in which they'll show up. Who knows? The Demogorgon might be on Monday. It could be on Thursday. I'll find that out on Friday Friday when I start sorting stuff out. All right, and with that, let's take a look at the Lich. So I'm going to need my monster manual and go from there. Monster manual. Here you are. Yeah, very good. Let's pop that off to the side, throw that up into our split screen, and go back to the tool. Now, more than likely, I'm also going to need a damage tracker to figure out what's going on there, but for the time being, I'll just leave that off to the side until we actually pull up the Lich's information. Alright, so the Lich is on page 202, and we will go to 203. And sure enough, here we are. And just like I thought, plenty of spells for our Lich. Of course, why wouldn't it? And we also have legendary actions, which will be great to see in that combat workspace. And yeah, no lair actions, thankfully. So it's going to be a lot, but let's work through this as fast or as, at a standard pace as possible. All right, let's just reset the calculations tool and go from there. All right, so our Lich has an AC of 17, which is natural. And by looking at the picture of the Lich, I don't know how that's natural. But anyways, so we have 17 AC. It's a medium undead, so we won't have to worry about the sizing. And then it has 18 D8, as we see here in the brackets or the parentheses, followed up with 16 Constitution, 14 Wisdom, doesn't really matter, and 16 Charisma. We don't also need that because it doesn't have any of those traits, as I've mentioned plenty of times before. And we're expecting this to be a CR 21. So this is going to take us a while to figure out. And already, with just that little bit of information alone, we're looking at a base of CR5 with a boost of, a DCR5 and a modification to DCR6 with its AC ratings and whatnot. All right, looking now into the skills section, we see that we have 3 saving throws of Constitution, Intelligence, and Wisdom. So we're going to come up here to the save proficiencies. Again, I don't know why I call it that. Let's just call it saving throws. If I could spell, that would be great. Save throws. Let's fix that one more time. Saving throws. Perfect. And then we modify that to 3 to 4, giving us a +2 effective AC bonus. Now we're seeing Oh, an interesting little bug here. This should highlight all of these, and it's not for some reason. So what's going on here in my conditional formatting? Let's take a look here. See, and this is why I still haven't quite released this yet. All right, so the range is actually supposed to be this, I believe. Right? Okay, so it's supposed to be a 4. Yeah, when B1 equals 4, the range should be all of that. All right. Cool. That's all taken care of, and we have that corrected. I don't know how that happened. I mean, I know how it happened. I was just breezing through this and trying to figure out what was going on. All right. Now we have our saving throws in place, and I've fixed the chart here for highlighting purposes. We now have skills, and we don't care about skills. Flat out, just don't care. So next we have damage resistances, and we have 3, which would trigger the damage resistances on the spot here for the offensives. For the offenses, and I don't really know why I put that into the offensive category. Technically it should be in defenses, but I guess because I have all this extra items here, it just was easier to put it there. Maybe it's something I'll move later on, but I kind of like it where it is, so I'm going to leave it there. So if we go and put resistances on, I already know that this is going to be no benefit because of how high the CR rating is, and it's going to be a 1 times hit points. Sure enough, with a CR 21, having damage resistances is going to be virtually nothing for our monster. So next we have damage immunities, and because we have poison as well as bludgeon, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks, we can then switch the resistance to immunities, and we'll get 1.25 times the hit points, which thankfully does shift it. If I remember correctly, I think it's CR 15, which is the cutoff point roughly, and anything over CR 15 has no hit point modification for resistances, but only gets a quarter extra hit points for immunities. All right, and that also is in the DMG for custom monster building somewhere after page 279. I don't ever remember. I just know it's like I know it's somewhere in between 279 and 289. Then we have conditioned immunities and the rest of this garbage we don't care about in the skills section. We jump down into the traits area though, and this is important. This is where we're going to get a lot of good information. And right off the bat, we have legendary resistances for 3 times a day. So we'll come over here and add those in, which is going to be right here labeled for the Tarrasque. And we'll add in 3 uses, giving us an additional 90 effective hit points added on to what we already have from the immunities and the base hit points as well. So we've gone already from 135 to 258 so far, which is pretty good. Pretty. It's going to let our Lich live a little longer. And I only say a little bit. Next would be the rejuvenation. And we don't care about rejuvenation because all that does is it lets the Lich come back after so many days, provided it hasn't been properly killed. And then we have spellcasting information here, which we will take a look at in a moment, and then turn resistance as well. We don't care about turn resistance. It does nothing except give advantage on saving throws against being turned, and it literally does nothing in the monster trait section. So there's no effect for turn resistance, which is a little surprising, but I guess because it's only really from clerics and maybe paladins. I think it's just straight up clerics that can do this. We don't worry about it because there is usually maybe 1 cleric, sometimes 2 tops. I mean, season 2 of Critical Role had 2 clerics. You're not going to see turn resistances or turn undead all too often. So the fun part is now working through all the spells and trying to figure out which of these is going to be doing the most damage. So we're going to come up to my damage tracker, which is just built for spells. And I might want to add that into the this into the calculations section and just put it all the way off to the right here to save me some time. But for the time being, I'm just going to put this here and make a copy. So we're going to copy off the Ultraloath from last week, and this will be the Lich damage tracker. And then we'll clear out all this information from the previous monster, which we don't care about. and take a look at what spells it has to see what is going to be doing the most amount of damage. So starting with cantrips, we see we have Mage Hand, Prestidigitation, and Ray of Frost. We could add Ray of Frost in, and generally I do, but it really doesn't matter at this point because I know that Ray of Frost is going to be, one, doing very little bit of damage, even as an 18th level spellcaster, and two, it's one of those things where the Lich is using it as a last-ditch effort because it's probably run out of all of its other spell slots. So next we have Detect Magic for level 1 spells. Magic Missile. We'll add that in here. We also have Shield, which, again, I had a feeling was going to be in here, so we will throw in Shield as a reaction, just so I can keep track of it. And we'll come back here and tick in Shield, because why not? Use it all the time. It's already cranking the defenses of the Lich up really high. Alright, next after Shield is Thunderwave, which could be worthwhile. And then after that we have, for level 3, Animate Dead, which could come in handy, but we're not going to take that into consideration. Fireball, which, always Fireball. That's just how it goes. Always Fireball. Why not? You know, just do it. So, let's see here. Fireball is 8d6, so it's going to be 3.5 times 8 times 2 players. And because we can cast all the way up to level 9, I'll just drag that down. And we'll see here that if we wanted to cast a Fireball at level 9, it would be effectively worth 98 hit points, or 98 damage on damage. 98 damage on average, provided it hits 2 players. Or at least, well, let's see. No, the real theory is 2 players fail. But if the Lich can also target up to 4 players and all 4 of those players pass, then it's still worth 2 players that failed. See where I'm going with this? And you could have similar combinations. You could have 1 player that passes and 2 that fail, and then that 2 that fails, or no, excuse me, 2 that pass, 1 that fails, and the 2 that passed is equal to 1 that failed. You could still get the 2 average here. So, generally speaking, you always want to cast AoE spells on at least a minimum of 2 players, if not upwards of 4. But 2 minimum. Don't waste it on 1 player. You know, cut this in half. You're looking at, what is that? 25 plus 3 would be 28. Only 28 damage for a Fireball at level 3 for 1 target. It's a severe waste of that spell. All right, moving on. We see at 4th level we have Blight and Dimension Door. Blight could be worthwhile. Not really sure if it's going to help out at all. Next would be Disintegrate as a 6th level spell. If I could spell faster, that'd be great. Globe of Invulnerability, not going to do anything. Finger of Death. We'll do a little bit of damage. Plane Shift, Dominate Monster, Power Word Stun is handy, and Power Word Kill is probably another good one to take into consideration. So the next problem is, what is our Lich going to concentrate for a spell? Looking over what we have here. Oh, and I also missed Melf's Acid Arrow. Oh, and I missed all the level 2 spells. That's really odd. Huh. Anyways. Melf's Acid Arrow isn't going to do nearly enough damage. So more than likely, since we don't have anything like a Firewall or... Oh, Cloud Kill. There we go. That's the spell. That's the spell he's going to be... that the Lich is going to concentrate on, Cloud Kill. Yep. Alright. So I'm going to... Oops. Let's get rid of that. Cloud Kill. So this is our concentration spell. So we're definitely going to need Cloud Kill's damage here. And let me pull that up on my side monitor. Alright, Cloud Kill is 5th level. And let's see here. Cantrip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so we don't care about those. And Cloud Kill does 5d8 points of damage and also 1d8 at higher levels. Cool. Oh yeah, I always like to have that set there so I can easily pull that. Okay, we're looking at 5d8, so we're going to say 4.5 times 5 times 2. And that can be upcasted to level 9, spell level 9. Alright, we've got that one set in place. Let's take a look at some of these lower level ones. So Power Word Kill. What is the damage on that? You utter a word of power that can compel one creature you see within range to die instantly. If the creature you choose has 100 hit points or fewer, it dies. Otherwise, the spell has no effect. Alright, so this one is just... We're going to say 100 points of damage. The problem being, though, is that we can't use it on the first round of combat. It's not possible, unless some players are rolling really low. Well, I shouldn't say it's not possible. There is chances where a player coming in could have less than 100 hit points, and as the DM, we shouldn't metagame that, unless the Lich has been spying and scrying on the players to kind of figure out who's going to be the weakest. So, sure, yeah. We could say, as combat is commencing, we could look around and figure out, okay, this player is probably going to be the weakest for the Lich to figure out, and then use a Power Word Kill. That's if we don't use it otherwise. Who knows? More than likely, I would probably suggest using the Cloud Kill at level 9, spell level 9 to get that 81 points of damage, and then hopefully keep it going for a couple times. All right, what else could we do? Finger of Death. Let's take a look at Finger of Death, and I may have a different rating when I get to the my shorts, because I'm trying to get through this stuff as fast as I can. Okay, Finger of Death spell. And the Finger of Death, as we saw before, is 78 plus 30 necrotic damage, or half as much on a successful one, but only targets one player. And this is a 7th level spell, and doesn't upcast. So we are looking at 78 plus 30, so that's going to be 4.5 times 7 plus 30 for a total of 61.5 average damage on the Finger of Death. As we saw in a previous video, I think it was the Arcanoloth that had it? Yeah, pretty sure it was. Now we also have Disintegrate, which is always a fun iconic spell to use. And Disintegrate. Let's see here. What do we have for damage on that one? A creature targeted by the spell must make a dex save. On a failed save, the target takes 10d6 plus 40 force damage, and can be upcast. Wow, 3d6 for each spell slot above 6th. Alright, so we are looking at a 6th level spell, and it's starting at, let's see here, 3.5 times 10 plus 40. Okay, so we're looking at 75 there, and then we're going to see an extra 3d6 every time it goes up, so it would be 3.5 times 13 plus 30. Oh, what did I do? I messed something up. Alright, what if I put this... Yeah, I think I need to put brackets, or parentheses around stuff. Because this should be working out higher. It shouldn't just be 75. Alright, what's going on? What's wrong here? Huh. Why is that doing that? It should be much more than just an extra half point of damage. 3.5 times... Weird. Let's see here. 3.5 times 13 equals 45 plus 40. Okay, that's the proper number. Oh, that was the problem. Okay. I didn't add in the 40 correctly. Silly me. 3.5 times 16 times plus 40, 96. And then finally, at spell level 9, we have, what was it? 3.5 times 19 plus 30 for a total of almost 100 damage. It's almost exactly the same as Power Word Kill. And one target. Let's see here. Target's disintegrated, leaves it with 0 hit points. So that's a fun one. Alright, and then lastly, what about Blight? What can we do for Blight here? Alright, well, the target, let's see here. Blight targets only one creature you can see within range. Alright, so that's only 8d8, but it goes up by a bit, and that's a CR4 spell. So let's see, what do we have? We have 4.5 times 8, and then we will upscale that to spell level 9 just for the heck of it. Alright. I'm not too terribly worried about all the other spells because they're not going to be doing anywhere near as much damage. And considering we have our spell slots here of, what is it, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1. We have all these spell slots available to us. We're going to be doing plenty of damage. So the question is, what is the maximum amount of damage we can do on 3 rounds of combat? Right off, I'm seeing Fireball and Cloud Kill. And I'm really thinking Cloud Kill would probably be the way to go first. So we can try this 2 different ways. That's why I have 2 sections here to kind of give an idea of what else would we be playing around with here. So we'll say here we'll do 1, and then we will follow up with this and that as well. And then we will do what's going to be the next most amount of damage after Cloud Kill. Because we can't concentrate on anything else, but that's going to be a ton of damage. So round 2, the next one best would be Disintegrate at 96 points of damage on average, because that beats everything else. So we could say Disintegrate for there, which uses up that 1 spell slot, and then after that we have Fireball or Disintegrate again. So probably the best bet would be to just do another Disintegrate. That's giving us the most amount of damage. And we're looking at a total damage of 141 for all 3 rounds of combat. So what if we didn't do Cloud Kill? First off, let's say we did Cloud Kill at 72 instead. And open that up for some higher spells. Some other more damaging spells. So let's say we'll go with the Disintegrate here, because we're going to save that Power Word Kill. And then also we're going to do this here. So we're actually looking at 137 points of damage. So the damage isn't too far off, as we see. The first combination ended up with, what is that, 4 more points of damage on average. Not terribly great, but it's still more. But even if you decided not to go with a spell level 9 Cloud Kill and went with a spell level 8 Cloud Kill instead, yeah, you would... Actually, hold on, I gotta change some numbers around here a bit because I forgot. This was used up by that. So that's not correct. Actually, we would have to come down to here and use the 85. So we have a slightly lower number here. We have, what is that, 8 points different. So it's actually a little better to throw up the Cloud Kill at spell level 9, weirdly enough. Alright, so we're going to go with this 141 points of damage here and add that into the 3 rounds of combat, since we don't really need to worry about anything else. We'll take a look at the other action, which is the Paralyzing Touch, but spells are going to be so much better. So round 1, I'm just doing this because we've already calculated our total amount of damage here. and I don't feel like worrying about it. So we just know the full attack is, bam, 141 points of damage. So we'll throw this over here, and here is our damage per round of 141. So what else do we have? We have legendary... Oh, we need to add in legendary actions. I forgot about that. So we're not finished yet. But let's take a look at the Paralyzing Touch. Melee spell attack. 5 feet range. Does 10.5 cold damage. And the target must succeed on a saving throw or be paralyzed for a minute. Alright. Again, too low of damage. We don't really care about that. Now we have our legendary actions. The first one is that the Lich can cast a cantrip. And we know that the one cantrip it has is Ray of Frost. Now, at 18th level, Ray of Frost is going to do how much? Alright, Ray of Frost at 18th level is going to be doing 4d8 points of damage. We'll come back over here and just throw that in for the heck of it. So we're looking at 4.5 times 4. So a total of 18 points of damage. Not great. Alright, well, the Lich could then do Paralyzing Touch, or it could also do Frightening Gaze or Disrupt Life. Alright, Frightening Gaze would then make a target frightened. The frightened target can repeat the saving throw. Doesn't really matter. I'm looking down here for anyone that's worried about what I'm doing. Again, this would also add in the Frightened Presence condition, because it can do it as a legendary action. But oh, I don't want that. I want Frightful Presence. Here we go. We're not getting any kind of a hit point bonus from the Frightening Gaze because of how high our expected CR is supposed to be at 21. So the last one would be Disrupt Life. Each non-undead creature within 20 feet of the Lich must make a DC 18 con save or take 21 points of damage. And a failed save has half as much. Alright, that's pretty great. So our first legendary action was what? 18 points of damage for a cantrip. Our second one, which I'm going to say is Paralyzing Touch, would only be 10.5 damage. And the last legendary action would be Disrupt Life. And because it is an AoE effect, or an AoE, we're going to say it's 2 targets for a total of 42 points of damage. But it costs all 3 actions. So with that in mind, we would then decide what can we do what would make the most amount of damage here. Well, we could say if we did all 3 legendary actions as the Ray of Frost, well, we could multiply that by 3, giving us 54 points of damage, which is pretty good so far. And then if we decided to do Paralyzing Touch and a Freezing Touch, or the Ray of Frost, we would then add in the 10.5 plus the 18 for a very little bit of damage, but it then does have the modifiers to our players. Vanderi, how you doing, man? Just saw your notice now. Just going through the Lich, and hopefully gonna finish this up pretty soon because all these spells are taking a long time. Almost done with it. Just figuring out the layer actions and what's going on here. So surprisingly enough, getting back into where I was here, 3 Ray of Frost is actually going to be doing the most amount of damage for our Lich. So we can just simply tack that on and say, what was it, plus the 54 here. So we're looking at 195 total damage. So we will just modify that to say all this as well. So now we have 195 points of damage. And with that, all of these spells are going to be using DC checks to get through this, and it has a DC of 20 and a plus 12 to hit. Well, Cloud Kill is a DC check, and potentially we would have 2, 4, 6 times for that. And plus 12, let's just see what happens here. Well, let's put in the spell attacks because we could do a whole bunch of Rays of Frost. And what else did I say? The Disintegrate, which was, I don't remember what it was. I think it's it's to hit. So we'll throw in the plus 12 here for the attack bonus and see what modifies it. Okay, we are just one shy so far of the actual rating for our Lich, which is supposed to be a 21. So I'm guessing something might be off. I know we can turn invisible with a couple spell slots from second level, which may be helpful. And I do have the shield added in for the +5 bonus there for every time to protect it. Is there anything else I could be missing? If I throw in the invisibility, I'm sure that's going to help bump it up a little bit. So where are we hiding in here? Superior invis with a pixie. Okay. That does it. That pretty much gets you where we need to be for the Lich to hit CR 21. We have to add in the invisibility and making sure that our Lich turns invisible. But I'm sure that there are other spells and combinations that are getting this up higher. It's just with maximum amount of damage and delaying the rounds of combat by using the invisibility, we can see roughly a CR 21, thankfully. And we can see here where all of our bases are. Alright, so catching up on chat, I wish there was a way to quantify something like plane shift, because honestly that's a big one to insta-kill a PC. Yeah, that plane shifting a player is, let's see here, plane shift them to the negative energy plane or the plane of water, rest in peace. That's for sure. In essence, we could probably say something like plane shift would be just 200 points of damage and just call it a day, like I've done with some of the other spells and stuff like the Sea Fury, for instance. I had to throw in the 200 points of damage just to get that idea across of, okay, this is an insta-kill item. More than likely, I'm sure D&D has some kind of extra ways, like you said, to quantify these spells that just aren't present there. But for all intents and purposes, at least the way I found it, we have a CR 21 Lich. It's going to be nasty, especially if you cast, if you cast Cloud Kill as a spell level 9, foregoing Power Word Kill, it's going to be, that's going to be rough, especially if you can clump the players up. Vanderi, did you request the Mind Flayer Arcanist last week? Just trying to remember if that was you or not. I believe it was, because we can take a look at that next if you'd like. Let's see here. Mind Flayer. Okay, cool. Alright, let's take a look at our Maniacal Mind Flayer and see what's going on for an Arcanist, since it has a bunch of spells. And it's going to take a little bit of time to work out those spells. Alright, so we've reset here. Oh, cat, relax. Let's open up a new one for the Mind Flayer Arcanist. Mind Flayer Arcanist. Alright. Oops, come on. Delete all of that, because that doesn't really matter. Get all that deleted. Alright. Mind Flayer Arcanist. So let's see what we have here for this guy. Or creature. Let's see what they have for them. So we're looking at a base AC of 15 for its breastplate, which is surprising that it doesn't have natural armor, but then again, who knows. I ended up running it against my party of 5 level 6 players as an epic encounter. Nearly TPK'd them, but I pulled the punch because I didn't want to just go roll new characters. Well, the question is, Vanderi, was it part of the storyline? Or was it something of a random encounter? Because if it was a random encounter, I could totally agree with that. If it wasn't, and it was part of the storyline, choices were made. Sometimes our players need to KO, unfortunately. Oh, okay, yeah. I wouldn't want I don't want my players dying from random encounters. That just does not feel. It's just not fun to tell the story. So I totally understand why you pulled the punch. All right. Going back, we have 15 AC for a Mind Flayer. It's a medium creature with 13 hit dice and what was that? A 12 Constitution, 17 Wisdom, and 17 Charisma. That stuff doesn't really matter. It's supposed to be a CR8. And what else do we have here? Well, skipping down, we now have our saving throws of 1, 2, 3 saving throws. So that's going to give a +2 effective bonus. And then nothing else to worry about. Skills and whatnot don't matter, and there's nothing to worry about here just yet. And then we have magic resistance. So we'll throw that in for the Baylor, +2 there. And innate spellcasting. We have detect thoughts, levitate, dominate monster, and plane shift. So luckily, the innate spellcasting doesn't really work. There's nothing to... Oh, why? This is not the first time someone has done burnouts in front of the house. Alright, so while we're at it, we're going to get a 2-for-1 here. We're going to get the Mind Flayer finished up, and then we will take a look at the Arcanist, or the Arcanist damages. So, the actions for our Mind Flayer base, drag strips with motorcycles and people doing burnouts. The burnouts are new this year. They've never done that before. Alright, so tentacles. The action for the tentacles for our monster is, let's see here, 15 average, or 15 even damage. So we got that for the tentacles. And then could also be stunned. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to throw in the constrict because of the ability to stun. You know, if a giant snake can constrict and restrain someone and give that a +1 AC bonus, I'm going to say a, let's see here. Oh, it's also grappled. Yeah, so that's fine. And then it can be stunned. So the grapple works, and we're going to get an AC bump there as well because of the constrict and allowing that for grapples. Next, we have Extract Brain, which one incapacitated humanoid grappled by the Mind Flayer is hit for 55 piercing damage. If the damage reduces the target to 0. Oh, it has to be incapacitated first. Mind Flayer kills the target by extracting and devouring its brain, but can still do the damage regardless if it doesn't reduce it to 0 damage. So we can add that in as well for the damage, but can only be incapacitated. So I'm not quite sure where to put that at the moment. And that's going to be 55 points of damage. And then Mind Blast. Oh, yeah, from the Mind Blast, we can incapacitate with stun. Thank you. So the Mind Blast will be stunned. Oh, yes, and the tentacle can stun too. So there's 2 ways of extracting brains, which is great. Each creature that is in the area must succeed in save throw or take 22 points of damage. So we were going to multiply that by 2, giving us 44 damage for the blast and stunning creatures. Right? Yeah, stunned for 1 minute. So we have 2 ways of stunning and then a way to extract a brain, which is great. So right off the bat, for round 1, we're going to suggest stunning a whole bunch of creatures. And then round 2, we're going to try and extract a brain. And then on round 3, if that target somehow is now stunned, and also from Confusion spell. Yep, I see it right down there, 4th level Confusion. Yep, another way to hallucinatory terrain. Yeah, there's plenty of ways. Well, the hallucinatory terrain does other things, but yeah, it's got a couple ways of stunning creatures or incapacitating them. So in theory, if we stun at least 2 creatures with the Mind Blast, there's a chance in the first 2 rounds of combat to go in there and extract brains. So we're looking at a whole bunch of damage here. And we don't even really need to worry about the tentacles. So we have a base damage so far for our regular Mind Flayer of 51 points of damage from the Mind Blast and then 2 extract brains, in theory. If not, it can try to do the extract brain again if the target is still incapacitated at that point. And then on top of that, we'll add in the +7 to hit and see what we get for our Mind Flare. All right. I'm not seeing anything else that looks like it could help. Because right now we have a CR6 Mind Flare. There's no other actions it can do. What am I missing here? Detect thoughts, levitate, dominate monster, and plane shift, self only. So the plane shift doesn't help because it only allows the Mind Flayer to escape. Huh. Interesting. What if we give it another AC thing? Check the spells. Well, right now I'm just doing the base Mind Flayer at the moment. Vanderi, I'm going to take a look and see if I can find where this, what I'm missing for the CR7, because at the moment, I think if I can give it one more AC from somewhere, this might work. And I think, you know, if we're stunning creatures, technically we should get +1 per player stunned. And I think if I add in one more effective AC from somewhere in here, I used it not too long ago. What was it? Parry. We're just going to use parry as the effective AC bump. Now we get a CR7 Mind Flayer. And that's only if the stun gives +1 effective AC per player stunned. So if we have 2 stunned players, technically we might have a +2 AC bonus. And I've been kind of leaning into that for a while now. If anything is giving some kind of a condition modifier, be it grappled, restrained, stunned, incapacitated, poisoned in a way, these might be +1 effective AC bonuses. And it seems to work in this case. For the standard Mind Flayer, it looks like, provided it gets +2 AC bonus from the Mind Blast, and shoot, even Tentacles, you know, we might be looking at a CR6 or 7 Mind Flayer. So it looks like the Mind Flayer is correct. Now, let's take a look at the Arcanist here and add in the spells from this. So I'm going to only worry about the major spells that it can do. Oh, it has shield, so that's going to be a big thing right off the bat. So that's going to increase the the monster's effectiveness like tenfold already. So let's throw on shield and see what we're looking at already, just from that alone. Right off the bat, we're seeing in the green zone here on my chart that the just with shield, our Arcanist is already a CR8 monster. Yeah, Blur. Blur is definitely going to be helpful. Where is Blur hiding? 2nd level spell. That's going to make it even higher. So let's see here. What does Blur exactly add in? How does that affect it? For the duration, any creature has disadvantage on attack rolls against you. Okay. So we could even effectively just say, well, if the Mind Flayer Arcanist is all about spells, we don't really worry about using it to do the tentacles. I mean, sure, it's definitely going to use the Mind Blast when it has a chance. So Blur as a concentration spell is going to add in even more AC. So yeah, this is getting pretty rough already. We could say Blur or Invisibility as +2. We'll use that as well. So we have Invisibility, which could be used in case of Blur. Either one of those spells, since they're both concentration, will work and give us another +2 bonus. So our... Oh, man. Look at this. This is absurd. It's got such low hit points, but because of all of its bonuses, we have a DCR 8 already with an OCR 8, and we haven't even looked at spells that do damage yet. This is disturbing. Let's see here. Wall of Force can split the party off completely. Yes, it can, which makes the encounter even more deadly. And because the only thing that breaks it is Disintegrate, and you can't cast spells through it. Yeah, Wall of Force is a rough spell. Yeah, splitting the party with a wall of force is a nasty DM thing to do, but could be fun regardless. All right, what can we do for damaging spells for our Mind Flayer here, the Arcanist? Well, we have Shocking Grasp, which isn't going to be doing too terribly much. What else do we have for spells that do damage? Brave Enfeeblement is handy. Clairvoyance. Oh, Lightning Bolt. There we go. Lightning Bolt. And that can be cast, what, 3 times a day? Alright, so that's a 3rd level spell. And then what else? Sending, Confusion, Hallucinatory Terrain, which could do damage, but kind of iffy. So we're just really looking at Lightning Bolt as its main source of damage. Alright, and it can cast spells up to 5th level. So we have, let's see here, 4, 3, 3, 3, and 2. Alright. Lightning Bolt does what for damage? I spelled something wrong. Lightning? There we go. I always forget the N after the T. So our Lightning Bolt does 8d6 points of damage and 1 extra d6 for every spell higher than 3rd. Great. So we're looking at a total of 8d6, so 3.5 times 8 times 2. It's basically just Fireball, but in electrical form and a straight line. All right, we have 2 Lightning Bolts at 70 points of damage and a 3rd at 4th level. So our spells would be like so. Oops, what did I do here? Round 2 would also be Lightning Bolt at 5th level, and then round 3 would be Lightning Bolt at 4th level, just for the sake of having it out there. What else are you saying here? Also, technically, the Psionic Dominate person would work through the Wall of Force since it's not technically a spell, since they still have the innate Psionics. Yeah, Psionics is a very oddball ability and whatnot, since it's not technically magic. But I guess it's really up to the DM as well, if they categorize psionics as magic or if there's an official rule. It's going to change at the table. Alright, so we're looking at a total of 67 points of damage from Lightning Bolt with the Arcanist if it wants to use 2 5th level spells and a 4th level spell on that, which, you know, could be handy. So we have 67 points of damage per round, which is a lot more than what we had here. So we'll just do 67 total. And yeah, it's a little higher. So our 67 gets added into the damage per round. And what is the spell save? The spell save is actually a 15. So the Arcanist technically would be a CR 9 if you're using the Lightning Bolts at its highest range. So yeah, Vanderi, technically if you were using Lightning Bolts or any other kind of gnarly combination that I know you've been doing because you were talking about your wizard, we've got a slightly higher than expected Arcanist. More than likely, if you're not using the Lightning Bolts and you're just focusing on all of the other like crowd control spells, but still using shield all the time or blur and invisibility in some combination, then the Mind Flayer Arcanist is going to still be that CR8 as printed. So it really depends. If you're using Lightning Bolts at its most damaging points, then yeah, this is going to be a pretty nasty Arcanist. Otherwise, it's the printed value. So with a little bit of manipulation and the spell combinations that it has between both the regular Mind Flayer and the Arcanist, technically they're the printed value. I found a CR 9 for the Arcanist, but if you don't, like I said, use those Lightning Bolts as much as you can, then it's going to be a CR 8, like it's printed in the variant version. So that's cool. Technically, I got a 3-for-1 deal, or 2-for-1 deal on the Mind Flayer. Let's see here. Banderi says, yeah, you can leverage higher damage, but I'd like the ability to deal with a party basically solo. Yeah, you know, as I always say, it really depends on what the situation of combat is or what's going on and how the Mind Flayer wants to trick or betray the party in one way or the other. Or just otherwise mess with it. Thank you. Thanks, Windary. So let me mark my my monsters here because I did find their information. Let's see here. So what's that supposed to be? The 7 for the Mind Flayer. And we've found, what was that? Shoot, I don't remember now. That's fine, I'll come back to it later. Oh, the Arcanist. Let's see if I have that one. Mind Flayer Arcanist. Oh, there's a Mind Flayer Scion as well. We evaluated that and we found basically 8, well, technically 9 originally. So it's slightly overrated, or underrated. And the quick fix is don't use Lightning Bolt. Alright. And then the Lich at CR21 I found to be pretty much right on. And I don't remember the values for that, but at least we have an even rated there. Oh. Alright, cool. Well, looks like we're getting right up on 7 o'clock here, and I'd like to tap out at this point. So, I'd like to say thank you, Windary, for joining me on this holiday, live stream, even though, I don't know where you might be in the world, but for me, technically it's the 4th of July holiday, and I had nothing better to do, so I figured, why not come on like I usually do and stream from 6 to 7 o'clock. So thanks for joining. I appreciate you being here. It's always nice to have someone chatting with me while I go through these monsters. Oh, no, there we go. Oh no, I gotta fix the the stream button there. Oh well. Oh, thank you. You're the first one to recommend that. That'd be great. I don't know what to I don't know what I would put up for like rewards and tiers and whatnot, but thank you. I'll definitely consider it. I appreciate the suggestion. That's great. Oh shoot, let me see if I can fix that chat box real quick. Oh, chat box, why? I think this overlay. Huh. For some reason. Oh, I think I locked it. That's why I can't mess with it. There we go. Well, thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate the offer about the Patreon. That's cool. I will definitely keep it in mind and possibly start thinking about it or working it out and see if there's some way to work it in. I appreciate it. All right, we've only got a minute left. I don't know if you have any quick recommendations I can tack on for if there's a monster you'd like to see as a short, or I can add it onto my list for later on. But if there's nothing else, I will say good night or good morning wherever you are in the world, and thanks for hanging out with me while I expose some monsters from D&D 5th edition.